Our small community is growing, and with the Grant County population reaching nearly 100,000, more opportunities have come in the manufacturing, technology, and agricultural industries, mostly due to the low power cost and fiber internet access. Serving our ever-growing community is the Grant County Public Utility District, which amassed a debt to the tune of $1.3 billion along the way. With the PUD Commission election looming ahead, the future of fiber hangs in the balance. Different perspectives on debt come from candidates Patty Parris and Nelson Cox as they look to fill the seat of outgoing Commissioner Bob Byrne and candidate Judy Wilson challenging incumbent Terry Brewer. iFIBER 1 News wanted to find out why the debt level is so high and how the candidates propose to deal with it. It's important to understand how the $1.3 billion was spent and what they would have done different had they been a commissioner at that time. So we reached out to Grant County PUD CFO Jeff Bishop.
A large majority of that is associated with our infrastructure. So when you look at our dam system, we're in the process of rehabbing our turbines and generators both at the Wanapum as well as Priest project, so a good majority of our debt's associated with that. Also our T&D system, so the different pieces we've had to invest in to ensure reliability for our customers and invest in our transmission and distribution. We also incurred, in terms of debt, when we put the got licenses for the two dams and the mid-2000s, a fair amount of costs were associated with that relicensing project.
We extended an opportunity to all four candidates to further explain the debt from their point of view. Candidates Wilson and Cox, who previously stated that the PUD's $1.3 billion debt load is irresponsible, both having been largely backed by ag power users, a group hoping to keep the ag power cost to a minimum and to maintain their 45% or more subsidy, but are now under investigation by the Washington State PDC, have declined to be interviewed. But Brewer and Parris had this to say on the matter.
Well, I don't take the number as a standalone number and how I react to the number of $1.3 billion. You have to dig deep behind it, and you have to look at it in the context of the strength of the PUD. Can it handle debt of this magnitude, and was it justified? So I look at financial ratios, and when I do that, the financial ratios tell me that they're reasonable, they're in line, they're not out of line. No red flags went up there. I look at the bond ratings that were awarded the PUD. We have very high ratings. We don't have a more rigid judge than the Wall Street bond rating agencies to determine the amount of risk associated with an entity that wants to sell bonds. Their opinion is that our current condition and our long-term forecast is one of optimism and strength, and they gave us bond ratings to back that opinion up. So no, I'm not alarmed by the debt. I think it is significant and important, but it was used for the right things.
I will say it's a significant amount of debt, and I'll be upfront and say it's going to go higher. We've got another $400 to $500 million to spend on rebuilding our hydro assets. Additional money to be spent in the electric distribution system going forward because our county is growing. In the 20 years I've lived here, our population has grown by 20,000 people. That's quite a number of new homes, new businesses, new factories in the county, and means more infrastructure being built by the PUD to serve those customers across our county. At the same time, the district is spending more in cash on that new infrastructure as a ratio to debt than we ever did before. So I think we're in good shape for a long-term financial outlook and a long-term rate outlook. And these assets that we're building are going to last 30, 40, 50 years, depending on what the asset is. And so it's only right that customers that'll be here 30 years from now are sharing in the cost of that expenditure, not putting that all on the burden of today's customers.
Since the early 2000s, the PUD has brought down its debt to asset ratio significantly from the 90% range to the 60% range today. So what's the plan to pay down that debt moving forward? According to the PUD's 2019 budget, it will apply $87.5 million towards the total debt balance next year. Both Brewer and Parris believe the PUD's plan to pay down the debt is a sound one.
I think that the PUD, like I said before, the PUD borrowed the money at the right time. They borrowed it when they were strong, that they could prove that we could carry that amount of debt. And more importantly, they borrowed money when money was cheap. And so I think we're being responsible. We need to continue on that. The sweet spot is looking at a debt ratio of below 60%. And I think that there is a plan in the 10-year forecast to get us there. So the sweet spot is that you don't borrow any more that you have to, but you borrow to be smart. You borrow so that you can have doors open in the future and have the wherewithal and the financial strength to do what you have to do to help our county grow.
Yes, I think we're on a good path. Reducing the debt to asset ratio is a big deal for me. And our target is going forward another 5 years to be down to 56% debt to asset ratio.
Brewer goes on to say that the PUD plans to increase its cash financing moving forward and to reduce borrowing, but says debt financing is a common practice amongst larger PUDs when building and maintaining infrastructure. He also says it's the only affordable way to finance that capital investment. Both Brewer and Grant County PUD Chief Financial Officer Jeff Bishop say if the PUD were to knock down all of its debt and pay it off at one time, it would drive up rates by as much as 200%. Between its assets and debt, Grant PUD is worth up to $2.1 billion and has an approximate net worth of $800 million. It's easy to be confused on what this debt means and why there is so much discussion on the matter and why there has been so much misinterpretation of the facts. One could say that if we believe in the dams and we believe in the future of Grant County, this financial decision seems to be an obvious one. I'm Sean Goggins for iFIBER 1 News.